It's that time again, but then again, isn't it always that time? We haven't seen a single Smash related announcement since Saw came out. We've had no news on this front for almost 3 years, yet still we play this endless game of guessing what's gonna happen in the next game when, for all we know, Ultimate could be the last one. Boy, I've been forever doing this. Before there were announcements of characters in the games, we basically proposed characters that we thought could be unlocked. It is in the very nature of a Smash fan to speculate. So yes, I must do it. I must make a Smash roster. But I don't wanna! Everybody's made a roster and I don't think there's much new I can bring to that area. Instead, I will predict one incredibly inane thing for the next game. The Palutena's guidance conversations. This does take for granted that both Pit and Palutena's temple will return in the next game, which I don't think is too unlikely. And even if Palutena's temple doesn't return, they can just shift it off to some other stage. Pit is definitely returning though. Joker is, I think, the fighter in the next game best up to have a cameo in Palutena's guidance. The question is, who butts in? You can't have all of the Phantom Thieves button, especially in a world where Alucard only got one sprite for his interjection. For me, it's between Morgana and Futaba, since Morgana is the recognizable mascot character for the game, whereas Futaba seems like she'd actually fit a situation like this. Obviously, the hero guidance will be a surface level look at the command selection feature, but more specifically jokes about how Hero is playing a turn-based RPG while the rest of the game is a platform fire, or something of that ilk. The obvious route would be to make Pit a kid who grew up with Banjo-Kazooie, but I think it would be funnier to play to the fact that he's basically 13 and have him have basically no clue who Banjo is. Yes, I know the official position is that Pit has existed since Kid Icarus was originally released for the NES, and it will exist forevermore, but this is the Palutena's guidance. I think we can fudge the rules with it. Bonus points if this is acknowledged and Pit just randomly doesn't remember the hit game Banjo-Kazooie. Pit will either have no clue who Terry is or have grown up specifically playing on the Neo Geo. I don't know what other jokes there are to be made about Terry. I didn't grow up with a Neo Geo. They're gonna go straight for demoting the amount of sword fights in Smash Bros. They went for this in the reveal trailer. There's no shot it doesn't get brought up in the guidance. Palutena still manages to tie this back to a tip for fighting them. It's just a joke about how the arm thing in arms is weird. They can't all be winners. Holy fucking shit, is that Minecraft Steve? Anyway, the joke was gonna be that Pit is blown away by the fact that it's Minecraft Steve. Sephiroth is scary, he freaks people out, so the guidance will probably be built around that. Alternatively, it's an investigation into what a one-winged angel would mean in terms of the Kid Icarus lore. This can go 8 different paths depending on what permutation of Pit, Palutena, and Viridi are feminists. None. The designs aren't even touched on, the convo just being a play on the fact that there are 2 of them sharing a body and associated game mechanics. The writer is throughout the whole thing trying to pretend that women are actually okay with this, trying to invoke the perceived phenomenon that non-oppressed allies are more vocal about slights against oppressed minorities than said minorities are. Just Palutena. I don't actually know what they'd do if Palutena is the only feminist, moreover why they'd have her be the only one. Just Viridi. Viridi could be painted as just a crazy feminist, but I could easily see her getting in some really good points in, with the narrative maybe even agreeing with her. Pit and Palutena. Viridi is just being used as a contrarian who keeps trying to get the others to play Xenoblade 2 because it's a really good game, allegedly. Pit and Viridi. Palutena is seen as being old-timey with the kids knowing what's stuff. Alternatively, she's revealed as being canonically bisexual and she's fine with their designs because she's into them. Palutena and Viridi. Pit is swiftly marked for being a boy and anti-feminism. Early on, it's pretty clear that the writer thinks that your feministness is actually determined by your gender. Or, the sexism is quickly criticized and brushed past so Palutena can get to the fighter tips. Kazuya has a lot of moves and I'm thinking there'll be a joke about that here. I'm expecting Palutena to list out every move he has a la Piranha Plant's guide. Expect a lot of bemoaning the complexity of Kingdom Hearts story. There are definitely a lot of other jokes that can be made here, but they all pale in comparison to the 10-game serialized JRPG series having a handful of contrivances. But do we stop there? Should we stop there? No. Obviously there are going to be other fighters introduced in the next game. Even if it ends up being Ultimate Deluxe, there's probably going to be some extra DLC paths. But first... Fuck, I'm actually going to have to make a roster. Okay, I'm not going to explain any of these picks, you're just going to have to let these wash over you. I feel like this is going to be a guidance where the jokes are heavily taken from the discussion around the character gang in this map. Viridi will call him just a Goomba with a hat, whereas Palutena actually knows the stuff that makes him viable as a pick. Palutena goes further in depth on the Splatoon lore, racism and whatnot. Viridi says this way at some point, to parallel her saying booyah during the Inkling guidance. One of these people is going to have their 4-year-old dinosaur version revealed to the world, and it could be any of them. It could even be you. Reedy winds up acting philosophical about the environment. This is the guy from Pokemon Violet. Is there really going to be room for anything else? Toby Fox cameo. Alternatively, Pit tries to start making the sounds that Undertale characters make when they talk. Someone from Within Heaven would probably have, I don't know, an explanation of the concept of a rhythm game, a description of tempo mechanics woven into their moveset. I don't know who they are. Can't really make any more predictions based off that information. No, there's no Naomio. Yes, this is their replacement. No, I'm not elaborating. The guidance is just them calling her gay. Okay, maybe I should elaborate on these somewhat. Bandana Waddle-Dee, this one should be obvious. Octoling, this one should be obvious. Koraidon, there should be some Gen 9 rep if the next Smash game doesn't take too long, and not only will another starter be a bit tired, it's a lot easier to make a moveset that works for both Koraidon and Miraidon than it is for Meowscarada, Skeleturge, and Quaquaval. They're the only other set of Pokemon that a player is guaranteed to have one of, so having each one from that set would be ideal. In addition, Koraidon and Miraidon are given far more characterization and weight by the story than your chosen starter does. This one should be obvious now. This one should be obvious, but unfortunately some people like Shantae. This one's mostly a numbers pick since there were only 4 non-echo picks and nobody actually wants to add Leia. Rhythm Heaven is fun. Okay, everybody leave, I'm going to go explain Cosmos now. So the obvious pick for a rep from this franchise is Noah and or Meow, largely because they're from the second largest Nintendo series that get new characters every game and isn't Fire Emblem. But the relevance of Noah and or Meow now is likely to be just as fleeting as Powers was in 2017, and we saw how many people complained during their 2021 reveal. Unlike then, we have a pretty good idea of where the future of Xenoblade is heading. It's either going to canonically tie in its spiritual predecessor and create its previous game, Xenosaga, or tie in one game spin-off Xenoblade X in one of two ways that both break the law. Now, the continued relevance isn't the only thing Cosmos has going over Nero and Meow. If they get added and Mithra doesn't get cut, then that puts the Xenoblade series at 3 fires for 4 games, a 75% ratio. Now, look at Fire Emblem, a series that is much bigger and got into a big stinking mess when it had only a 61% ratio. And that's counting echoes. If we instead add a Xenosaga rep, then that expands the bounds of what counts as Xenoblade, so that there's 3 fires for 7 games, a 43% ratio. Plus, Cosmos is the closest I can get to a retro pick while still knowing what I'm talking about.